Well, hello there, naughty boys and girls. It is I, Disasterina! Welcome to the Tasty Earbuds podcast. Here, we are all about the drag, the art, the trash, and the comedy. As I'm sure you know, we start every season here at Tasty Earbits in the Halloween time. And on this first episode of Season 4, we are going to reprise our fan-favorite Very Scary Stories series, but this time with an evil twist. All the stories you hear on this Very Scary Stories anniversary episode actually happened. That's right, people. We not fooling around. We wouldn't kidder. We got true tales of tantalizing terror! And I'm absolutely not going to use the term spooktacular to describe it. What a lineup of grotesque ghouls we have for you. Ave Rose, Frankie Doom, ZWERG, Barney Scrotum, Siri, Dragpool, Amber St. James, and I might even have a scary true story for you too. But first, some important news.
And now, Tasty Earbits News, your number 3 source of vitally important Disasterina news items.
Hello friends, my award-winning drag interview show, My Drag is Valid. Okay, I didn't win any awards, but it's a fantastically wonderful show that everyone loves. It's been picked up by the queer Canadian super network Out TV. That's right, fans. All the original My Drag is Valid episodes and a brand new unreleased episode featuring shape-shifting drag king extraordinaire Charles Galen will be available exclusively on their network. The fun begins Wednesday, October 25th, when the Charles Galen episode will be broadcast on the Out TV networks. Thereon, a classic episode will be broadcast each week for 15 weeks. Those perfect fans who have already seen the classic episodes, as well as the new fans just discovering the show, will be excited to discover that every episode will have brand new clips, graphics, and music spliced in, added for your enjoyment. What, you think that's all the news? No, it gets even better. On Halloween, October 31st, Out TV will be broadcasting our crowd-funded supernatural horror/comedy short film, Which One? It stars Landon Sider, Amber St. James, Foxy Ajwe, Felony Dodger, Charles Galen, and Greasy Bufanti. This short recently won the award for Best Short Film at the Groaning Corpse Film Festival in Auckland, New Zealand. Sign up now at outtv.com. And now, the first of our very scary true stories comes from author and artist Ave Rose, called The Spank Spectre.
This ghost story goes all the way back to when I lived in Hollywood, right off of Hollywood and Western, and I had a kitty cat named Skinny Kitty. named after Skinny Puppy because this cat followed me home one day after a Skinny Puppy concert, and I gave him some leftover pizza, and he never left me after that. He was my cat. So one night, I decided that I was going to masturbate. The way I masturbate, it's like sensory deprivation, where I like to stick my head under a pillow and I like to completely wrap myself in blankets and, so I can live my total fantasy in my head without anything bothering me.
Just curious, what kind of fantasy were you thinking about when you were doing the masturbation?
This is going to be like a porn episode, not a ghost story episode. No, it's something that I often think of, which is like a fantasy that I have called the Pussy Bar, which is where I go into this place that's kind of like an old-fashioned like soda pop shop, like in the 40s and 50s, where you can just kind of like hop onto the table and like pick out like, chocolate malt, but instead there's basically pussies. Basically, there's, the people bent over where there's like an ass and pussy like on the table, and I can just choose one and sit at the table and like eat it. That's one of my go-to fantasies, so I'm sure it was that one. And I know that this cat will come and walk all over me. And so I literally put the cat outside of the room, closed the door tight, and went to go do my business. So here I am getting really into it, and I feel like the cat is walking on me, and I'm like, damn it, how did the cat get in here? But, I'm already into it, and I'm already totally wrapped up in my blanket, and so I'm like, I know this sounds gross, but I'm like, I'm gonna finish, like, F the cat, and I'm not gonna let it ruin my party, so to speak. But the cat's getting really into it, and I can feel it, like, walking up my legs, and, like, pushing into my butt cheeks, and really almost like, an Asian lady at a spa, just really kind of crawling up my spine with its two little paws, like one of those weird spine massages that I hate when you go to the massage parlor. And it's frustrating me, but I'm still trying to ignore it, and I really am just like sexually frustrated, so I really want to get my rocks off. So it's starting to send chills up my spine though, because I've never had this cat really try that hard to mess with me like as I'm masturbating. So anyway, I'm getting closer and closer and trying to ignore the presence in the room of this stupid cat. And then right when I'm about to come, I feel this heavy, heavy pressure, like the cat's full weight of its body on the back of my head and pinpointing my neck too. And it's like, I feel like it's trying to suffocate me, like it's shoving my head into the pillow. And ironically, it kind of worked, like asphyxiation or something, which I'm normally not into, but I guess for that fantasy, I guess it worked because I actually did come, as scary as it felt to kind of have something shove my head into the pillow. And as soon as I came, I ripped off the blankets and I wanted to, yell at the cat and pulled off the blankets. And I'm like, Skinny Kitty, how the hell did you get in here? And I realized that the door is closed, which is weird. The cat doesn't usually walk into a room and close the door behind it. And I looked all over the whole room. And this is Hollywood, so my room was really small, so there's nowhere for it to really hide. And then I opened the door, and the cat is on the other end, meowing to get in. So, what the F was in there with me, shoving my head into the pillow? Woo!
Follow Ave Rose at Ave Rose 13 at Instagram. AVEROSE13. And now for a harrowing expose of misapprehension by the sassiest 7-foot-tall convention queen in the multiverse, Drag Pool. Drag Pool, so glad to talk to you this early in the morning.
Of course, Disasterina. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Is there anything more scary than 10:30 a.m.? Ah!
Why, yes, there is. The first time I put on my drag makeup.
So, what we got going on here is our third annual Very Scary Stories podcast, and I know, Dragpool, that you must have had a very scary, very, very scary. Do I sound like Count Floyd yet?
This is really going to be scary. I'm not kidding you this time.
A very, very scary story that you can relate here to our frightened listeners.
And I won't be mentioning my puberty. No, of course. In order to tap in to a scary story, I'm going to kind of transition from Dragpool and become the man underneath the makeup. It's David now. As you know, Disasterina, in one of my earlier incarnations, I was a cosplayer.
And a damn good cosplayer.
Oh, thank you very much. It really started out as just a thing for me and my husband to celebrate when we go to cons to do something together, kind of a couple thing.
I love your cosplay. It's so good.
Oh, thank you so much. Believe it or not, it started with one of just those Target drugstore makeup kits. And I had to go from there. So you improve. You realize that there's professional makeup out there after a period of time.
There is?
Right? You don't have to use those waxy crayons that come in the little bubble packets.
Oh.
I know that's news for you. Joking. Yeah. So we were cosplayers at one time, and we kind of cut our teeth on the cosplay doing Walking Dead characters. The show had just come out. It started to gain its popularity, and I really wanted to do a take on our own versions of those characters. So I did Rick Grimes, and I put Paul, my husband, into zombie Shane. Shane was Rick's deputy best friend mate, and he does become a zombie later in the show, but I turned him into a zombie and put a leash on him as a way of kind of my ode to Michonne, who was my favorite character at the time. So we took our own little spin, and we got a lot of nice attention for that. We got AMC started to notice us. We started to see other cosplayers doing Walking Dead stuff. And we really got a really nice reputation and grew our Walking Dead cosplay into about 14 or 17 people to recreate the cast of the characters.
Wow. That's so complex. It's so cool.
It was difficult to coordinate at times, to put all those kind of egos in one room and to make sure everybody came at the same time. But it was a lot of fun. There were a lot of opportunities that came out of that. So one of those opportunities happened at Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, the mother of all cons. And we were doing our bit, and AMC wanted to do some promo videos for their new season. So they took some shots of us. They took us to the beach, and they did these little shots of us walking along the beach and did different character poses and all this kinds of stuff. And that was like on a Saturday. They contacted us then on a Sunday and asked if we could do some secondary shooting. They wanted to get some scenes they didn't actually get. Well, I had changed costume. I was still doing Rick Grimes, but I changed into a different version of my Rick Grimes cosplay. So I had to hurry up and go back to the hotel and change the costume that I had been wearing to the one that I'd been wearing the day before for continuity. So we were pretty far away. So I took a shuttle bus. It took me a while to get there. Then I had to go in and rush to change the costume and the makeup. The original version was fairly bloody. It was a blood-splattered Rick Grimes. His face was covered in blood. I had two weapons, a shotgun and my regular kind of magnum holstered revolver. And normally I will keep my prop weapons in a bag because I don't want to be misconstrued as somebody who was actually having evil intent on the street. But I was rushed, and so I forgot about that. So I'm all bloodied up. I got my weapons. I'm sitting in front of the hotel waiting for the shuttle bus to show up. I'm just sitting there eating some peanuts when I start to notice a convoy moving very slowly of police squad cars, just ever so slowly, lights off. There had to be a good 10 cars moving in the direction of my hotel. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And why are they moving so slow?
The president was in town, right?
Right? It was almost like it should be a limo in front of it, right? Or behind it. So I did have an epiphany where it's like, oh, fuck, they're here for me. Okay. Realizing I'm splattered in blood and have weapons. They were orange-tipped weapons, so they were replica weapons, but I guess from a distance, that's harder to see. So sure enough, they all pull up right in front of me, and on the loudspeakers from their car, I hear, you need to put your hands in the air and go to your knees. You need to put your hands in the air and go to your knees. Now, luckily I'm white, because I figured I still have seen enough police videos to know I need to make sure everybody who's witnessing this realizes I'm cooperating.
Let me stop you right there. When you say the police, are you talking about Sting, Stuart Copeland, Annie Summers, they do, they da, that sort of police? police?
No, I'm not talking about the future star of Dune. No, I am talking about the regular red-blooded American, Blue Lives Matter, walking up to you with handcuffs and, a duty belt, that kind of police.
So the trigger-happy kind.
Yeah, and I complied. There was an audience now. Lots of people standing around.
That's what you want for your cosplay, a great big audience excited about what you're about to do.
And I figured, oh boy, they're probably itching to see something happen with me. It's the excitement that they can tell a friend. So they're all just standing around watching. And I just start saying out loud, I'm complying, because I wanted that on record just in case something were to happen that did not go well. So they came up behind me, and I felt something press against the back of my head, and the officer said, "Don't make any sudden moves. I have a loaded weapon at the back of your head."
What?
Yes. And I repeated, I'm complying, I'm cooperating, I'm complying, I'm cooperating. So as soon as they removed my replica weapons, they grabbed my hands, put them behind my back, and handcuffed me. At this stage, nobody's asking me a damn question. I'm just sitting there, and they're conversing amongst themselves. These 10 squad cars of police officers are conversing amongst themselves.
Are they getting up the nerve to ask for an autograph, maybe?
They're getting up the nerve to do something. It's the something that was giving me some concern. Because it was all like, we need to take him down to the station, and this is what we need. Oh, well, he does have orange tips. Well, what do we do with this? And, well, we need to book him. And does he have any ID? And I'm like, so I just start saying out loud, again, to anybody who will listen to me, I just start saying vocally, I'm in a costume. I'm here for Comic-Con. I'm in a costume. So they come over, and somebody decides that they can start talking to me. So they asked where my wallet was, and it was in my front pocket. I remember the guy still saying, "Oh, you have a front pocket wallet too?" And so he took the wallet out. They checked to make sure that I wasn't wanted or anything. And they had to call their supervisor. They weren't quite sure what to do. So I had to wait for the supervisor to show up on scene. I am happy to say all of the officers were dudes, and their supervisor was a woman. So it was like, okay, great. So she shows up, they have a little discussion, and they decide that I haven't broken any laws. That there was no reason to actually take me to jail to arrest me. One of them did hint that maybe somebody from inside the hotel that I was staying at, called us because they were concerned. And I just thought, this is really a failure on the ability of that hotel, which is a Comic-Con hotel with a shuttle in front of it, to communicate with its staff, to say, this is what cosplay is, and this is how it may present itself.
So everybody out there should know that Comic-Con, the San Diego Comic-Con, if you have not been there, like 150,000 people go. The entire city turns into Comic-Con City. It's not San Diego for that weekend. It's Comic-Con town. Everybody's in costume. Hotels are filled with people doing cosplay. Costumes everywhere. So there is no excuse for any employee to call the police on somebody with an orange-tipped weapon.
Yeah, and I'm sitting in front of a Comic-Con shuttle bus stop. I'm sure they just thought I was just completely insane or something. It's like, why would I be sitting out in front of the hotel covered in blood eating peanuts? I mean, even if I had just committed some horrific crime, wouldn't I be trying to get away? Why would I just be sitting there? Outside of that, they just thought I was completely just some insane person who just went on some blood spree, of which, wouldn't you even know that inside the hotel that something happened inside the hotel? Logic did not influence the person who ever called the police.
Well, I'm glad you're alive. They eventually said they're sorry or something?
No, they were kinder to me once they realized that I was just a cosplayer. They started asking me a little bit about the cosplay and who I was cosplaying, and I told them I had a photo shoot to get to, so Could they speed it along a little bit? Luckily, there was a cab driver just sitting out in front. This was a little bit before Uber was just starting to get popular. But there was a cab driver sitting out front, and I went up to him and I said, can you get me to the convention center in less than 10 minutes? Which, as again, you know, is difficult when Comic-Con is in town because that major boulevard is just always congested. It is packed. It's going to take you 45 minutes just to go from one light to the next one. So he said, yeah, I can get you there. And sure enough, he did. He went all these little back streets and turned and this way and that way, and we were there in 10 minutes. And I still made my photo shoot with AMC that day.
Very scary stories.
At the time, obviously I was anxious, but I wasn't feeling a sense of overall dread, even though I had a gun pointed to the back of my head. But my psyche knew different. I had nightmares for the next 3 days of that exact moment of the officer saying, I have a loaded gun pointed to the back of your head, don't make any sudden moves. That became a nightmare on a loop. It would start, I would wake up, and then it would just play that clip over and over again. For 3 nights in a row, my psyche said, you were shitload in trouble. So even though I wasn't overtly anxious, because I knew I hadn't done anything wrong, my psyche said, oh no, you were in danger. You were in danger, Dave.
And I thought I had cosplay PTSD, but that's the real deal.
It is the real deal. True to life.
Follow Dragpool on Instagram at DRAGPOOL1word Dragpool, or go over to Real Guys, REELGUISE on the Instagram for all the cosplay kind of stuff. Do it. And now a short break for an important message.
Hi, this is Sparkleboard the Mushroom Gnome. You are listening to the Tasty Earbits podcast. Help support our endeavor by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/ColdSlutsOnFire. One word. I'm Sparkleboard the Mushroom Gnome. The Mushroom Gnome, the Mushroom Gnome, the Mushroom Gnome, the Mushroom... Sparkleboard, the Mushroom Gnome, the Mushroom Gnome, the Mushroom...
And now for another very scary true story.
Is really gonna scare the daylights out of you.
From LA's lunatic princess and host of fake smart drag show, Siri. I'm calling this one, if they don't get a choice, it's too late, Unbearable Intrusion.
Hi everyone, my name is Siri, and I'm going to tell you a little story about how I was attacked spiritually by a magical bear. Now, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in ghosts or afterlives or spirits or woo-woo or anything like that. So I have no way of explaining how this situation came to be, but I can only tell you what exactly I remember, the way that I remember it. And this is what I remember. So I was 6 or 7, and I was in a political conspiracy theory doomsday cult that I had been raised in. And my parents would always have these really intense political discussions at the dinner table. Very complex, intricate, often fabricated. And, I like to talk a lot, so I always wanted to contribute something. And what did I have to contribute to a conversation about whether Dick Cheney, did 9/11 or not? I was a kid. I didn't know anything, and I still don't really. So I would be sent away from the table quite often to go sit in a chair in the middle of my bedroom and count at 5 minutes before I could come back. And this was one of those days, and I was sent away from the table humiliated and upset and frustrated. And I sat in my little chair and began to count to 5 minutes. And my room was on the first floor of my house, and the window was maybe 3 feet up from the front yard, the ground of the front yard. And our front yard was maybe 50 meters long. And then there was a busy highway across the street. And in between the busy highway and the front yard was a set of hedges, tall 20-foot impenetrable hedges. And then across from that was the neighbor's yard. And it was dusk, maybe 7 o'clock. The sun had just gone down all the way, and now we were left with that little bit of light, that sort of pinkish blue, purple vibe. And I'm looking out the window, and a bear materializes. It didn't really fade in or, pixelate in or zoom in from anywhere. It just was not there, and then it was. And it was visually blue, even though I knew deep down that it was brown. But it looked blue, and it was semi-corporal, like it was translucent. It began to walk towards me, and I was thinking to myself, okay, sure. What? But, I wasn't sure what I was seeing. I'd never seen a bear in real life. So this bear walks across the street, which was mysteriously empty for a highway during rush hour, and through the hedges, which was impossible. I mean, not only could you not walk through those hedges, but if you did find a way to maneuver your way through the hedges, it would have disturbed the leaves and the branches, and they would have... But no, it was like a ghost walks through a wall, It just walked through the hedges. And at this point, I am increasingly terrified. The bear is looking at me, and it is not happy. It's not a good vibe. It's not giving... don't start forest fires. It's giving, I am going to kill you, and I'm a bear. And it walks up to my window, and I am rooted to the spot. I mean, absolutely paralyzed with fear, and I can't take my eyes off this bear. And it's humongous. I mean, it's the size of a bear. I had never seen a bear in real life before, but I Googled it later on, Googled different types of bears, and it was a brown bear, even though it was visually blue. And it walks straight up to my window with its head almost filling the entire window frame, and I can see its yellow eyes glaring at me. And this bear opens its mouth and roars. And I couldn't hear it, but I could see its little bits of saliva across its fangs. And I could see them vibrate with the breath from its invisible bear throat. And I got the fuck. I got the fuck out of there, man. Because that bear was not friendly. He was not... I don't want to stick around and find out what happens after this invisible roar. I mean, I felt the roar. I felt the anger from the bear. And I did the only thing that I knew how to do at the time, the rudest gesture that I knew, which was to blow out a raspberry over my shoulder to let it know, fuck you, you didn't scare me, even though I was clearly running to exit the location. And I went back to the table and hoped that nobody realized that I had not counted to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Follow Siri on Instagram at SIRI_EH. And now for a horrendous meta nightmare from local LA barfly Barney Scrotum called The Audacious Puppeteer.
Barney Scrotum here. So, I got a scary true story for you. Alright, I had this crazy dream that a hand, like a human hand, had gone all the way up my ass. And then, when the hand opened, my mouth moved. And when my mouth moved, sound came out, like I was talking or something. You know what I'm saying? It was so creepy. I was like, what the hell is going on? You know what I'm saying? So, I went down to the bar to hang out with the guys, and we were talking about hockey and pseudoscience, you know, like gray aliens and Bigfoot and stuff like that. I love talking about that stuff. And then I started telling the guys about my dream and how freaked out I was. You know what I mean? But then, my buddy, Sporklebort the Mushroom Gnome, says,
But Barney, of course you have a hand going up your ass. You're a hand puppet. The mushroom gnome, the mushroom gnome, the mushroom gnome, the mushroom gnome.
and like, you know, the realization hit me like a ton of bricks. You know what I'm saying? I'm just a cheap hand puppet made to look kind of like a Muppet with a crappy mustache glued on. So, it was all real. It wasn't a dream. You know what I'm saying? Pretty fucking weird, you know what I mean? Wow.
And now another very scary true story. This time from Alaska's own OG super monster, an undead stripper goddess of death. What a fucking resume, right? Frankie Doom. I'm calling this one Phantasma Chaperone. Why? I don't know. Sounded good at the time. Frankie Doom, do you have a very scary story for us?
I do. I actually have a pretty scary, weird story.
Lay it on us.
So, just to preface, I'm like horrified by demonic possession and like ghosts and supernatural stuff. I love it. I channel it into my art all the time and it inspires me a lot, but like scares the shit out of me too. So I was raised Catholic, so you know, all that shit, all the shame. When I was younger, I was a kid. I remember moving into my new house and I saw a hand, like kind of like a weird like shadow hand against the wall, like moving. So I mentioned it and my dad said, "Oh, you're full of shit. Like it's whatever. You're just imagining things, right?" My mom at the time, she had a stroke. So she was in a wheelchair, like learning how to walk and stuff again and doing like a lot of PT stuff. So she said she felt a presence behind her and it pulled the wheelchair. So she thought it was my dad. And when she turned around and said, "Hi, Jerry," or whatever, it wasn't him. So she panicked. And my dad was like, "You guys are just imagining things. You're both like feeding off each other now at this point, you know?" And I went to my room. We have one of those heaters in the wall, right? But it wasn't plugged in. It was just like disconnected all the wires and stuff. It shocked me. So I yelled at my dad. I said, "Dude, like that shit's like on fire. It's like hurting me." He's like, "There's no possible way. There's no wires." I'm like, "Well, something happened." And eventually my sister said she saw something too, that there was someone sitting on the edge of her bed. And my dad said, "Okay, now you guys are just like all making this up. You know, it's a group think. You guys are all scaring each other. Now stop, whatever."
So this is happening every once in a while?
Yeah, it was sporadic at the beginning of it. I believe I was in middle school. No, but probably just like the beginning of high school. And I used to ditch a lot and like have my friends and party and do whatever and have them over a lot. And there was one day where we were kind of playing hide and go seek. And my friend Heather said she saw me walking down the hallway. So she followed me and she followed me into my parents' bedroom. But when she walked in the door behind me, I was gone.
What?
Looked like me.
It wasn't you?
I wasn't there. I was somewhere else, hiding in the closet, making out with somebody. So that was crazy. And I was like, okay. And she kind of got freaked out and said she wanted to go home. And then my grandmother, she's passed. It was my father's mother. She said that in the middle of the night, she was asleep. And then in the middle of the night, I had come into her bedroom and like, I guess touched her and like wiggled her to wake her up. So when she woke up, she looked right at me and that it was me standing staring at her. And then I turned around and walked away. So she got up to go see what was going on. When she went to my bedroom to check up on me, I was asleep.
Frankie Doom, are you a phantasma? Are you a ghost? Are you real?
I think I attract them. I think I attract all the monsters. So I never saw my twin, but I was told by a few people that they saw it and that it looked very much like me. And they thought it was me, but it would disappear, it would vanish. And eventually over time, I would start seeing this like figure. And they call it sleep paralysis, right? Where you like see something there and you can't move. And I started having it like every night where I would go to bed and it was like clockwork. As soon as I got in my covers and I got comfortable, I would like feel like I can't move and I would see this like person and it was a dark figure. It was a man. Well, it looked male. You can never tell, you know. You can be whatever you want to be. I don't know how he identifies. But yeah, it looked like a male shape and it just watched me sleep. And it stayed there all the time in my bedroom. And it used to scare me so much, but I would always play like, I don't see it. If you ignore it, it'll go away. Like, it's fine. And I would tell my dad and tell my family, and they would be like, okay, now you're just like too much. Like, what drugs are you on? What's going on? Mind you, I was on drugs, and but not everyone can see the same thing. That's how I knew it was true. And it happened all the time. So I stopped sleeping in my bedroom. I started sleeping in our den, like the TV room, and it worked for a while. And then eventually it like started following me into that room, and it would just stand there and stare at me, and it would freak me the fuck out. So at one point, I remember just asking, like, whatever you are, it's cool. Like, crawl into my bed. My bed's huge. Let's just take a nap. Like, stop fucking touching me. Stop being weird. Like, whatever. And I was like, or just say something. Talk to me, whatever. And eventually I heard the words, "Are you scared?" out of nowhere, like in the middle of like my bedroom, just darkness, like me by myself. So I ignored it because it scared the shit out of me and I wanted to freak out and scream. Till this day, my dad thinks I'm full of shit. My sister has said that she saw someone sitting in her bedroom and someone pulling on her blankets and stuff. My mom chose to ignore it and just never talked about it again. So I thought, okay, it could be that I'm always wasted with my friends, but I spent the night at my friend's house, and this is where it got kind of weird because I would never tell people the full specifics of how I would sleep and this guy would stare at me because he would watch from the door or he'd watch like from different parts of the room and just be like kind of like hovering over. So I was sleeping with my friend and we were in bed together, my friend Amanda and I, and she woke up in the middle of the night and freaked out and said that there was a man watching us sleep in her bedroom. So she saw it too, and that he was hovering over us watching. So it scared the shit out of her. And I went to my other friend's house, Christina, and spent the night. And she said that whatever it was stayed at her house for like 4 days. And it was walking around her house in like her closet and like her bedroom and stuff. And there was just a man walking around that was dark.
That's super creepy, Frankie. Now, I'm wondering, this house that you grew up in, is this house a haunted house, or is it just that you are haunted?
I think it's me. Yeah, it was the weirdest thing ever, but people started seeing it, and that was the crazy part. And I've had friends that come over, and they would say stuff like, your house feels really heavy. Like when you walk in here, it feels like there's something dark here. There's always something around. There's like a weird vibe of like just a heavy feeling. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, it's weird. But it haunted me for years. All the time, almost every day, it would just appear and watch me sleep. It felt like it was climbing on top of me or like grabbing me and stuff. It was so weird. And then I would hear these noises in my ears, and if I would try to like close my eyes, they would burn, so I had to keep them open, but I still couldn't really see anything. It was so weird. See the shapes, I could see weird things. I don't know. It's like a weird experience. I can't explain it, but it happened all the time for a few years specifically. And one last friend, she crashed at my place, Myra. She would hang out all the time. We were like the best fag hag you could have. And at one point, she said that I had fallen asleep, and then she heard me mumbling in my sleep, and it wasn't my voice, that it was me talking, but I was knocked out, and my voice was completely different, and it scared her. And she woke me up and said, get up, stop, like, what are you doing? And I was like, what's going on? She's like, you're fucking talking in some weird fucking voice. It's like really weird. And she called her mom to pick her up.
Wow. You know, I've seen your live performances, Frankie. I think you're still haunted.
I don't know where he went. Eventually, it just kind of stopped. I ended up naming him Dennis just because he was always around, and I felt like I should give him a name. And I think I was watching Angel at the time, and there's an episode where Cordelia moves into her new apartment, and there's a phantom in her house that haunts her, and she calls him Phantom Dennis. So I was like, okay, I have my own Dennis. But yeah, eventually it just kind of started happening less and less, and then it just kind of stopped. Every now and then, like when I go back to visit my parents, like, I feel kind of weird, and I get like weird feelings, but for the most part, it hasn't really happened in a really long time.
Thank you, Frankie, for that very scary, real, creepy story. Go follow Frankie Doom on Instagram at XXFRANKIE_DOOMXX. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want some more important commercial messages? Well, here they are.
The Disasterina merch zone place. It's my fancy store. Go buy my shit. Novelties, art prints, ephemera, t-shirts, stickers, apparel, patches, greeting cards, paintings, jewelry, enamel pins, accessories. Plenty of fun stuff for you and your stupid friends.
.com. Now, for the demon daddy dryad of New Brunswick, my exquisite drag son, ZWERG, with a dangerously disturbing true story that will leave you aghast. I call it Satanic Granny Panic.
Well, hello there, Mama D. It's your Canadian drag son's work. And I just wanted to first of all say how excited and proud I am of you and Ave for your My Drag is Valid show on Out TV. Go Canada. I'm so proud of our little drag family always. And your daughter's son, Prince Strawberry, and Argentina, of course, as well. So, I have a scary story for you. And it happened when I was a little kid. So let me just preface this story with, I come from a very Christian Catholic family. My grandmother would do her rosaries. She'd fall asleep in her chair doing her rosaries. Her mother actually had such faith that she was able to move a mole from my mother's face to the back of her neck. And it's true, there's pictures of her when she was a kid with the mole on her face, and now it's at the back of her neck. So these were women of faith. So we'd always have Sunday dinners at my grandparents' house. And it was an old house, kind of creepy in itself. We were rooting through the attic while my grandmother was making Sunday dinner. And we found this really old Ouija board. And it was kind of spooky, but we started fooling around with it, and we couldn't get it to work right. We were saying that my brother Pat was moving it himself, and anyway, we took it downstairs. And we set the Ouija board down on the dining room table. It was like a big old round dining room table. And Aunt Susan said it, because it was hers and my mother's, she said it wasn't working because you're not doing it properly. You have to do a welcoming. You have to be very calm, do welcoming, invite the spirit in. You have to put one finger at a time on the planchette. That's the arrow thing that points to the letters. Very slowly. And then the magic will happen. So she listed all the rules of how to make it work. So we're all seated around the dining room table, kind of like a scene in a movie. And Susan invited the spirit in. Is anybody there? It answered yes. Our grandmother reached around the corner from the kitchen. She said, "Where'd you find that? Put it away." We didn't listen. So we started asking other questions like, what color shirt is so-and-so wearing? And it said green. We asked it what day it was, and the answer was right. And what color are the curtains? And all the answers were right. Our grandmother, she said to put it away again. And we said, but it's answering the questions now. It's actually working. It's answering the questions. She said, ask it if it likes holy water. So we said, Ouija, do you like holy water? And the answer was F-U-C-K-O-F-F. And we told our grandmother, and she said, get it out of here. But we didn't. We were all freaked out and into it. So we said, do you like Aunt Susan? Yes. Do you like Terry? Yes. I didn't want to know if it liked me or not. Oh, we asked it a trick question. We said, do you like Grampy? And it answered, not here. Because he wasn't there. We were really freaked out by that. So we were getting just so wrapped up in this. Finally, we decided to ask it, do you like Grammy? Just with ease, it just floated to the letters. It's just O-L-D, and a pause, C-U-N-T. So we said, oh my God, it said Grammy's an old cunt. And when Grammy came running out, she grabbed it, she took it running outside, and Susan's running, and she's like, no, you have to say goodbye first, you can't get ready. So Grammy threw it in the snowbank down where the garbage is collected and left it there. My mom and my grandmother, they went in, sat in their chairs, and started doing their rosaries over and over and over and over to rid the house of any kind of evil spirit. Years later, Aunt Susan developed schizophrenia and was always paranoid about strangers watching her and demons. So we don't know if it may have been because of that. Maybe she didn't say goodbye to the spirit properly. And then my brother Terry did too. He started seeing red-eyed demons everywhere. And he has psychological problems now, so it was a very, very scary time. I was there, and let me tell you, it was a powerful experience. I wish you a spooktacular Hallow Sleason.
Okay, so just because I'm not going to use spooktacular doesn't mean other people can't. Good for you, ZWERG. Go follow ZWERG at ZWERG_THIELE and ZWERG_XYNTOCH. That one especially if you like to see wonderfully round, beautiful buns.
Go!
leaping, breathtaking, bearded queen of San Diego. The star of the supernatural horror thriller Which One? Amber St. James. Amber St. James. The word on the street is you have an interesting and very scary true story. What might that be?
Wow. I mean, when I thought of what story to tell, I mean, considering that existing is scary in and of itself, I figured I would tell the tale of when I thought I had seen an apparition. I was very, 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 very young. So at this point, I did not necessarily know what an apparition was. I was like, what is this weird thing that I think I'm seeing, but I'm not 100% sure whether or not I am seeing what I think that I am seeing that I thought that I saw. I did see. I think I was probably like early middle school, if I remember correctly, but also the ADHD makes me forget a lot of things very quickly, very soon, all the time. So, but we're gonna go ahead and say it was like in like middle school. And at the time, my mother would drop me off at this like daycare, more or less, because she would work at like fucking dew crack of morning, like 5 a.m. kind of situation. So I would have to get dropped off because too young to stay at home, even though I've always been very independent. So I thought I could stay at home, but you know, not in control. I don't pay the bills, not at that point. So she would drop me off every day. And usually because it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, like I would be halfway dead sleep anyway. By the time I would get there and I'd go to sleep and then we'd wake up, eat breakfast, all the things and the stuff, and then I'd go to school. So like any other regular day, I'm halfway asleep, half awake, half, tired. And so I get there and already by this point, like I was not super conscious. Like, those moments where like you're sleeping, you're like halfway there, you're halfway not. So like part of you is dreaming, but then part of you is awake, but then you're not really sure on like what is real and what is not.
So you were kind of lucid dreaming maybe?
Honestly, I think that there might be some there on that. So very much in like that kind of moment is what I was feeling. So as we get there and she drops me off and like I go to pull out the, the little sleeping mat, I pull out the little blanket. And so I go and I take my little nap. I don't remember if I had woken up or not, but I remember for some reason, I feel like I was then standing in this hallway, which there was like an actual like walkway up to like where all the kids and stuff like sleep at. But for some reason, like I don't remember ever getting up and like standing in this hallway, but I just remember being present and standing in this hallway and feeling like I was seeing this like blue light going back and forth. And I was like, I don't know what this is. And part of me was like, well, was I seeing a face in that? Did I not? Like, what is this thing? Because I'd never seen it ever in my life. And so at that point, I was like, oh, this is, I don't like this feeling. I don't like what this is. I don't like how this made me feel. Like it made like the little hairs on my arms like stand up. I would say at that point, I'd never like experienced anything like ghostly or anything like that. So like I didn't even know how to process what it was. I was just like, maybe I was just a little too tired. Like that had to have been what it was. But like now here I am like years later and I feel like I definitely saw some kind of shadowy figure that felt like it was at some point used to be human. I don't know why it decided it wanted to present itself to me, especially in that moment, in that like weird realm of like sleep and not sleep. But I feel like so often, like when we get into the research and like look at the human brain, like that in between moment is probably the best moment where like if there are things from like other realms and like other sides will probably want to contact you is when you are in between realms of like, sleep and brain being able to like really dive into the subconscious and things of that nature.
Now, did you feel like it was malevolent?
In the moment, I felt scared only because I was like, I don't know what this is and I've never experienced this. So it's just like, oh my God, this new thing and I don't know what it is. But I think like in reflecting about it now, I don't feel like I was in danger. Like honestly, I feel like there was an energy to it that felt like itself was confused or like trying to find something or somewhere or whatever, because like I feel like in the moments of like how it would move, even though it was very quick, I felt like its movements were not intentional. Its movements were very much like seeking.
Did it have a name?
It didn't feel like it was some sort of, like when folks engage and somehow like there was a history that is like bestowed onto them.
Did it have a gender?
It felt mask, but like it felt very 1800s. Like I feel like it had a top hat, which was very ironic considering that the babysitter, if you will, was also a very, very religious, like Christian woman, well, couple. So to experience a haunting, if you will, or a ghost or a presence or an apparition in their household felt very like, oh, okay, that's definitely something I will not be sharing with them because I'm not trying to be told I will be going to hell.
Thank you so much for being part of our very scary stories.
Of course.
While I have you on the pantyhose spit guard, I have a question for you. Are you excited about which one being broadcast on Out TV on Halloween?
Oh, absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. Like, I think more people need to know which one. I mean, we're all still wondering the question, which one of the witches really did win? I really feel like it was a sandwich.
Everybody out there is going to watch it on Halloween, and they may or may not get the answer to that fundamental question. So thank you so much, Amber. Happy Halloween. I love you.
Love you too. Bye.
Follow Amber St. James on Instagram at MXSSTGAMES. Wait a minute. Not so fast. I got a very scary true story too. I call this one Maudib. No, just kidding. I call it Spectral Vacation. So, this scary incident happened to me when my family was on vacation. I think we were going to Walt Disney World in Florida, and my father was driving us in the family station wagon. We would go on vacation every summer for a couple of weeks to some very typical American tourist destination, Wisconsin Dells, House on the Rock, that sort of thing. Anyway, one night we were in the motel, probably halfway there. A day or two more driving yet ahead. Everyone was asleep, except me. That's usually the way it was. There were 2 double beds and I was in the bed with my snoring father. My sister and mom was in another bed. It was before midnight, I suspect, and I was wired, probably from the orange Fanta. Don't you want to? I was laying awake, my eyes closing occasionally. Trying to go to sleep, but also excited about reaching our destination. At some point, I opened my eyes, and I saw a curious shape on the wall in front of me at the foot of the bed. It looked almost like a projection from a slide reel projector. Don't know what that is? Well, look it up. The shape was so crisp. It confused me, because there didn't seem to be any way light could get into the room. The drapes were closed, the lights were off, there was no dust in the air illuminated, there were no distortions. It was inexplicable. At first, I could not believe my eyes. No, it couldn't be. But it was. The shape on the wall was of a cartoon ghost. You know, the most typical cartoon ghost you'd ever see, with the 2 blobby arms and a head with 2 black eyes. Totally 2-dimensional, super simple shape, the exact height of an adult. It scared me so that I put my head under the covers. I waited, maybe a minute or 2, and then I poked my eyes above the bedspread. It was still there, in the exact same place. It didn't move at all. I stared at it for a long time, and it stared back at me. I thought, if I screamed and woke up my family, they would be angry at me because I'm sure the shape wouldn't be there anymore. I was sure it was only for me to see. I was very afraid. So, I put my head under the covers once more. I don't remember how long I stayed under the covers, and I don't know when I went to sleep. But somehow, I did go to sleep that night. In the morning, the cartoon ghost wasn't there, of course. I didn't tell my family about it. I'm sure they wouldn't have believed me. To this day, I'm convinced this actually happened. The memory is so clear. I can still see it in my mind's eye. Well, I hope we scared the pantalones right off of that majestic derriere of yours. If we didn't, then there's something seriously wrong with you. Maybe look into it. Scary music on the podcast by Dr. Steve-O, Satel, Triptych of a Pastel Fern, Kemarios, Kent Holmes, Atom Smith, and moi, Disasterina. I would like to personally thank our fantastic Patreon supporters. You are the ones who are keeping this podcast growing and going. Love you. Joseph Reish, Indra Lowenstein, Amy Marsh, Jeremy McNabb, Keith Ferguson, Annalyn Bond, Rollerblaze, Sassy C, Sylvia Ahmed, Tom, Ali, Carrie Wolf, Eric Peterson, John Get Bent, Renee Redanius, Melissa Sarah, Julia Levine, Rhea, Simin Lo, Spencer Montoya, Story Nagel, and Katrina Miller. Thank you so much, and remember, Patreon supporters, if you have any questions for the magical Disasterina Queen herself, just go ahead and send me a message to Patreon, and I will answer your question on the air on the podcast. Special perks for you. You wanna be as wonderful as those people? Well then go to Patreon, I don't know how to fucking pronounce it, .com/Cold Sluts on Fire. One word, give us plenty of your greenbacks, we need it. And a special thanks to Count Floyd, aka Joe Flaherty, for inspiring me to be wacky and weird, just like you. I love you so much.